So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to show you another build for a weapon with strong Riven disposition, and that is the Flux rifle, the weapon of choice of the Corpus crewman. The blueprint for the Flux rifle can be picked up in the Corpus lab in your dojo, and it's a slash-based beam weapon with decently high status chance. Now the Flux rifle doesn't come with any polarities as standard, so I've added 3 Vs and 1 dash, so 4 Forma in total, and technically this should be a 5 Forma build because I am missing 2 ranks on rifle ammo mutation, but I feel like adding a 5th Forma onto the Flux rifle just so I can add 2 ranks to rifle ammo mutation would be, in academic terms, taking the piss. But anyway, the mods I'm using are Serration for more damage, Heavy Caliber for even more damage, and the reduced accuracy doesn't affect the Flux rifle at all. Then I have Split Chamber for some multi-shot, and multi-shot on beam weapons just adds damage. It doesn't do anything to the status chance, unfortunately, so it just adds some extra damage. And then I'm using the Riven, which is Flux Rifle Chronicron. And this adds loads of fire rate and a ridiculous amount of crit chance. I mean, 273.1% bonus critical chance, and it also reduces the zoom on the weapon, which is not a big deal. Now, this is sort of an okay Riven. You could definitely get a much better one. The fire rate is good for beam weapons because it increases status chance and, of course, the damage the weapon does. And the crit chance, even though it's really high, it only brings the weapon up to 18.7% because it has 5% at base. But since the Riven also provides very high fire rate, it crits quite a bit. Unfortunately, it also drains ammo at a ridiculously high rate, and carrier's ammo mutation wasn't enough, so I had to add rifle ammo mutation to the weapon itself. And finally, I'm using high voltage and malignant force for corrosive damage and thermite rounds for heat damage, and with this setup I have 148.4% chance to proc status every second, which for a beam weapon is pretty good. Now, as is to be expected from a weapon that does mostly slash damage, the weapon isn't great versus heavily armored units, and even though the corrosive procs are very frequent, it still takes a while to kill something like a bombard. However, versus a light armored unit like this butcher, it's pretty damn good. And where the weapon really shines is versus fleshier units. Even a stronger fleshier unit like the Corrupted Ancient dies pretty damn fast. And yes, that was indeed a 37.7k crit. Now, with the Riven that I ended up with, and with the build I'm using for the Flux rifle, I wouldn't really consider it a sortie viable weapon, because I would maybe take this into a sortie if it was like sortie 1 or 2 versus the Infested. I wouldn't really use it versus the Corpus or even the Grenier, because I did try this in both a Corpus and a Grenier Kuva flat, and it just wasn't doing much. But then again, as I've said already, my Riven for the Flux rifle isn't the best even after 13 cycles. However, outside of sorties, in normal missions and fissure missions and even Kuva Siphon missions, this weapon performs surprisingly well. And it still performs decently even in high-level nightmare missions. And one really cool thing about the Flux rifle, at least in my opinion, is that it's this rifle that pew-pews this tiny itty-bitty laser, which has a lot of slash, so occasionally it will just explode enemies into body parts, which is pretty satisfying to watch. So if you got a Riven for the Flux rifle, especially if you get a good one, you might want to go and pick this weapon up, because it's a weapon that's really fun to use. Watching enemies explode into body parts as you hit them with a laser beam is really cool, and it performs really well, although as I've said already, if you don't get a good tier Riven, it may not carry you through sorties. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.